Olivia stared at the dinner table, adjusting the silverware for the third time. She wasn't nervous. At least, she kept telling herself that. It was just another weekend, another night of entertaining guests. The only difference was that tonight's guest was Ryan, her husband Mark's best friend. Mark had been excited about Ryan visiting. "It's been years since we all hung out properly," he had said, pouring himself a drink earlier that evening. "You'll love catching up with him." That was a stretch. Olivia had always liked Ryan, but they weren't exactly close. He was the kind of man who kept his distance, always polite, always respectful, but never overly warm toward her. Still, she didn't mind having him over. If anything, it might distract Mark from whatever had been keeping him so occupied lately. The doorbell rang, and Mark rushed to answer it. "Ryan. Man, it's been too long," he greeted him with a slap on the back. Ryan stepped in, looking almost the same as Olivia remembered, tall, broad-shouldered, with his same sharp blue eyes that seemed to notice everything. He smiled at her, a little hesitant. "Olivia, it's good to see you." Dinner went smoothly, filled with laughter and nostalgia between the two men. Olivia mostly observed, sipping her wine. She noticed how Mark had been drinking more than usual, his laughter louder, his eyes avoiding hers. Lately, he had been distant, working late, his phone always turned screen side down. She told herself she was imagining things, but doubt lingered in the back of her mind. After dinner, Mark and Ryan continued drinking in the living room while Olivia excused herself to tidy up. It was a small thing, but she needed a moment alone, away from Mark's forced cheerfulness. She had just placed the last dish in the sink when she heard footsteps behind her. Turning, she found Ryan standing in the doorway. "You okay?" he asked, his voice quieter than before. Olivia forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired. Long day." Ryan hesitated, glancing back toward the living room where Mark was laughing at something on the TV. Then, stepping inside, he lowered his voice. "I need to tell you something." The change in his tone made her stomach twist. "What is it?" He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "Mark, he's been seeing someone else." For a moment, the words didn't register. The room seemed to still, the faint sound of the television fading into the background. Olivia let out a breathless laugh, shaking her head. "That's not funny, Ryan. I'm not joking." His expression was serious, pained. "I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but I can't sit here and act like nothing's happening." A cold numbness spread through her. "How do you know?" Ryan swallowed hard. "Because I caught him. I saw the messages, the calls, and I've met her." Her breath hitched. "You met her?" "She was at his office last week. I confronted him about it, but he brushed it off. Said it's nothing serious." Ryan's jaw clenched. "But that doesn't change the fact that he's lying to you." Olivia turned away, gripping the counter. Her mind raced, piecing together all the little things she had ignored. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden change in his demeanor. Had she been that blind? "I'm sorry," Ryan said, his voice soft. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. She wouldn't break. "Not yet." "Does he know you're telling me this?" she asked. Ryan hesitated before shaking his head. "No." A bitter smile tugged at her lips. "Then let's keep it that way." Ryan frowned. "Olivia, if he thinks he's getting away with it, then I have the advantage." She straightened, her voice steady. "I need proof. Real proof." Ryan studied her for a long moment before nodding. "Whatever you need, I'll help." Olivia had no idea why Ryan was willing to do this. Maybe guilt, maybe something else. But at that moment, she didn't care. Because her husband thought he could betray her in secret. And she was about to prove him very, very wrong. Olivia barely slept that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while Mark snored beside her, oblivious to the storm raging inside her. Every time she closed her eyes, Ryan's words replayed in her mind. Mark, he's been seeing someone else. She had spent years building a life with this man, believing they were a team. And all the while, he had been sneaking around behind her back. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the fact that she hadn't seen it sooner. The signs had been there. She had just chosen to ignore them. By the time the sun rose, Olivia had made up her mind. If Mark thought he could play her for a fool, she would prove him wrong. She needed undeniable proof, something so damning that even he wouldn't be able to weasel his way out of it. She got out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Mark, and went to the kitchen. To her surprise, Ryan was already there, sipping a cup of coffee. He looked up when she walked in, his expression unreadable. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "You?" He gave a humorless chuckle. "Not really." There was a strange tension between them now. Before last night, Ryan had just been Mark's best friend, someone she had known but never thought much about. But now, he was the person who had shattered her illusion of a perfect marriage. She sat across from him, wrapping her hands around a mug of coffee. "Tell me everything you know." Ryan hesitated, but then he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "It started months ago. I noticed he was acting different, taking private calls, being secretive with his phone. At first, I thought it was work stress, but then he exhaled sharply. One night, I ran into him at a bar. He wasn't alone." Olivia's grip tightened on the mug. "Jessica," she said, remembering the name Ryan had mentioned. He nodded. "She's younger. Works in marketing or something. From what I gathered, they've been seeing each other regularly. And it's not just some fling, Olivia. He's been spending money on her. A lot of money." A chill ran down her spine. "How much?" Ryan hesitated before pulling out his phone. After a few taps, he turned the screen toward her. "Enough that I thought you should see this." Olivia's eyes widened as she scanned the bank statements he had somehow acquired. Thousands of dollars had been spent at hotels, restaurants, and luxury boutiques, all charged to a card that Mark had hidden from her. The betrayal cut deeper than she expected. This wasn't just some casual mistake. Mark had been funding his mistress's lifestyle while treating Olivia like a clueless fool. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. "I need more than this," she murmured. Ryan frowned. "Olivia, this is already. I need something that he can't deny. Screenshots, photos, anything that proves what he's been doing." She met Ryan's gaze, her voice firm. "Can you help me?" For a moment, Ryan said nothing. Then, after a long pause, he nodded. "Yeah, I can help." Over the next few days, Olivia played her role perfectly. She didn't change a thing about her behavior. She kissed Mark goodbye in the mornings, made dinner as usual, and even laughed at his dumb jokes. If he suspected anything, he didn't show it. Meanwhile, Ryan worked behind the scenes. He tracked Mark's whereabouts, dug through social media, and even managed to retrieve text messages between Mark and Jessica. Olivia read them in disgust. Asterisk, "Can't wait to see you tonight. She doesn't suspect a thing. Asterisk, asterisk, I miss you, baby. I'll book the hotel. Asterisk, asterisk, told her I had a work trip this weekend. We'll have the whole weekend together. Asterisk." She clenched her jaw as she scrolled through them. The lies, the deception, it was all there in black and white. But nothing compared to what Ryan found next. One evening, he sent her a photo. It was a candid shot of Mark at a fancy restaurant, sitting across from Jessica. His hand was on hers, his smile easy and familiar. And then the bombshell, another photo from the same night. Mark pulling Jessica into a passionate kiss. Olivia stared at the image for a long time, her heart pounding in her chest. There it was. Proof. Her husband was a liar and a cheater. And now, she was going to make sure he paid for it. The moment Olivia had undeniable proof of Mark's affair, something inside her shifted. She no longer felt heartbroken or betrayed. Now, she was focused. She had spent years playing the role of the devoted wife, believing in their marriage, only to be made a fool of. But if Mark thought she would just cry in a corner and let him get away with it, he was in for a rude awakening. The plan had to be perfect. She didn't just want to confront him, she wanted to humiliate him. She wanted to make sure he felt the same level of betrayal, the same gut-wrenching pain she had felt when Ryan told her the truth. Ryan helped her set everything in motion. He wasn't just an ally now, he was invested in seeing Mark face the consequences of his actions. Olivia didn't ask why he was so willing to help, but she could sense his frustration, his anger toward his so-called best friend. It started with the dinner party. Mark had planned it himself, inviting close friends and family. He had no idea Olivia had turned it into a trap. The night arrived, and Olivia played her part flawlessly. She greeted guests, smiled, and laughed as if nothing was wrong. Mark, oblivious to what was coming, kept an arm around her waist, playing the role of the devoted husband. Halfway through dinner, Olivia stood up and clinked her glass. "I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate my wonderful husband," she said sweetly, watching Mark's face light up with pride. "He's been working so hard lately, traveling, staying late at the office. I worried he was overworking himself, but then I realized." She paused for effect, her heart hammering in her chest. "He's just been making time for someone very special." Mark frowned slightly, confused. The guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing something was off. Olivia reached for the remote she had hidden under the table and pressed play. The TV screen flickered to life, displaying the photos Ryan had gathered, Mark and Jessica at the restaurant, holding hands, kissing. The guests gasped, whispers breaking out like wildfire. Mark's face turned pale. "Olivia, what the hell?" "Oh, there's more," she interrupted smoothly, clicking to the next set of evidence. Screenshots of his texts, bank transactions, hotel receipts. Everything laid bare, for everyone to see. Silence filled the room. Then Mark did the predictable thing. He got angry. "This is ridiculous. You went through my private stuff? How dare you?" "How dare I?" Olivia laughed bitterly. "You've been lying to me for months, spending our money on another woman. Do you really want to act like the victim here?" Mark clenched his jaw, his eyes darting around at the horrified faces of their friends and family. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she cut in coldly. "I understand that the man I married is a liar and a cheat. And I also understand that I am done being your fool." The guests didn't know whether to stay or leave, but Olivia didn't care. She had one last card to play. Reaching into her pocket, she pulled out an envelope and tossed it onto the table in front of Mark. "That's a divorce agreement," she announced. "I suggest you sign it quickly before I take even more than what you owe me." Mark stared at the envelope, his face a mixture of shock and fury. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I've never been more serious," Olivia said, her voice unwavering. Then the unexpected happened. Ryan, who had been silent the entire time, finally spoke. "Don't make this harder on yourself, Mark," he said. "You got caught. Own it." Mark turned on him, his face twisted with anger. "You? This was you, wasn't it?" He laughed bitterly. "You've always had a thing for her. I bet you love telling her about Jessica." Olivia's breath caught. Ryan's expression darkened. "This isn't about me." "No." Mark sneered. "Then why are you acting like her damn protector? You think you can just step in and take my place?" Silence. Olivia looked at Ryan, and for the first time, she noticed the flicker of something in his eyes, something he had been holding back. Mark let out a hollow laugh. "That's it, isn't it? You want her." Ryan didn't deny it. Mark scoffed and turned back to Olivia. "Guess you didn't waste any time, huh?" Olivia's voice was cold as ice. "You lost the right to talk about loyalty the second you put your hands on another woman." Mark had nothing to say to that. The dinner party ended in disaster for him, but for Olivia, it was the beginning of something new. She had taken back control, exposed his lies, and now, she was free. And as she left the house that night, Ryan walking beside her, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was something more waiting for her beyond the wreckage of her marriage. In the days following the disastrous dinner party, Mark tried to salvage what little dignity he had left. He called, texted, and even showed up at Olivia's temporary apartment, begging her to talk. It was just a mistake, Liv. We can fix this. Don't throw away everything we've built. But Olivia didn't respond. There was nothing left to fix. She wasn't going to be another cliché, the wife who forgives, only to be betrayed again. Mark had made his choice, and she had made hers. The divorce moved quickly. Olivia had everything prepared in advance, thanks to Ryan's help. She had the proof, the financial records, and the legal team ready to ensure she got what she deserved. Mark tried to fight it at first, but he was already publicly humiliated. His reputation, both personally and professionally, was in shambles. The last thing he needed was a nasty legal battle that would expose even more of his dirty secrets. He signed the papers begrudgingly, his once cocky demeanor replaced with bitterness. "Hope you're happy," he muttered during their final meeting. Olivia met his glare, without flinching. "For the first time in a long time, I actually am." And she meant it. With Mark officially out of her life, Olivia finally had the freedom to rebuild on her own terms. But there was still one lingering question, the one Mark had thrown at her that night at the dinner party. Ryan. Since the night she exposed Mark, Ryan had been by her side, offering his support in quiet, unspoken ways. He never pushed, never asked for anything in return. But the weight of his presence, the steady way he looked at her, told Olivia there was something left unsaid between them. One evening, she invited him over. She needed answers, not just from him, but from herself. As they sat on her small balcony, the city lights flickering in the distance, Olivia finally asked, "Why did you help me?" Ryan exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "Because you deserved better." "That's not the whole answer," she pressed. He turned to her, his gaze unwavering. "I've cared about you for a long time, Olivia. Longer than I should have. But you were married to my best friend, so I never said anything. Never even let myself think about it." He gave a small, almost bitter smile. "Until I saw what he was doing to you. And then I couldn't stay silent anymore." Olivia's heart pounded. She had suspected. Mark had all but said it that night, but hearing it out loud was different. She didn't know what to say, so she spoke the only truth she was sure of. "I'm not ready for anything new. Not yet." Ryan nodded. "I figured." He paused before adding, "I'm not going anywhere, though." Something about his words made Olivia feel lighter. She wasn't sure what the future held, whether she would one day see Ryan as more than just the man who helped her through her darkest time. But for now, she was free. Free from lies. Free from betrayal. Free to finally live for herself. And that, more than anything, was enough.